I'm a 23-year-old guy, and my mom, she's in her mid-40s now, decided to leave me when I was 14. Just up and left. To this day, I still don't fully understand how someone can do that to their own flesh and blood, but that's what she did. For years, I thought about her. Wondered what kind of person just walks away from their kid without a second thought. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I didn't have a dad around. He was always there. He was the one who held everything together, picked up the pieces of what she left behind. But you can't help but feel abandoned when your own mom chooses someone else over you. And that's exactly what she did. She found a new man, a new family, and forgot about me. Or at least, that's how I saw it back then. But here's the kicker, she reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, after almost a decade of silence, she texts me out of nowhere. And no, it wasn't like a simple, "Hey, how's it going?" kind of message. Oh, no. She had the audacity to ask if we could reconnect. As if time could just erase everything. At first, I didn't even know what to think. Like, what do you say to someone who abandoned you for years? Do you welcome them back with open arms like it's some kind of reunion? Or do you just tell them to stay out of your life, like they did to you? Honestly, I didn't know what I was feeling. I was angry. I was confused. But more than anything, I was hurt. Hurt that, after all this time, she thought that just by reaching out, she could fix everything. As if it was that simple. I stared at her message for what felt like an eternity. I couldn't even bring myself to respond at first. The memories flooded in, and I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Every moment I spent with my dad, every holiday where it was just the two of us, I could feel her absence like a hole in my chest that never quite healed. But you know what? I did respond. It wasn't some heartfelt "I miss you, Mom" message or anything like that. It was cold. Short. Direct. I told her I didn't think we should reconnect. That I wasn't interested in forgiving her. That's all I could manage to say. And then, she replied again. Of course, she did. She said she understood, that she'd made mistakes, and that she was sorry. But there was something in her tone, something in her words, that felt off. Like it wasn't about me. Like it wasn't even about her wanting to make things right. It felt like it was more about her. Like she was the one who needed this reconciliation, not me. And that pissed me off even more. It was the kind of thing that makes you question everything you thought you knew about someone. I mean, what does someone like her think when they decide to walk away from their kid? Does she not care about the damage she did? Does she not understand the scars she left behind? Or was I just some inconvenient part of her life that she decided to leave in the past? I won't lie. I thought about it, reaching out and telling her I forgave her, but I couldn't. It wasn't that simple. I'm not that person. I don't have the kind of heart that forgives someone just because they decide they want to come back after all this time. I don't care how sorry she is or how many times she says it, some things can't be fixed with a few words. I guess I should have been prepared for what came next. She didn't stop. Every day, another message, another apology. It was almost like she couldn't take the hint. And it made me think, even more, how much she took me for granted. Did she really think I'd just fold after all this time? Her persistence was starting to get under my skin, but it also made me question something else. Was I being too hard on her? Was I being too stubborn? I couldn't tell. All I knew was that I couldn't just pretend like everything was fine. I couldn't just open that door and welcome her back into my life, not after everything that happened. But the worst part? The real kicker? She was starting to make me second-guess myself. It wasn't long before my mom's relentless messages started taking a toll on me. At first, I thought I could ignore them, just let them sit there, unread, like an unwanted nuisance. But after a few days, the weight of it all started sinking in. It was like I couldn't escape the damn thing. Every time I checked my phone, there it was, another message from her. Each one was more desperate than the last, and I swear, I could feel the guilt creeping in, even though I didn't want to. I had told her I wasn't interested in reconnecting, right? But somehow, in the back of my mind, there was this voice. It kept whispering, what if you're just being petty? What if you're pushing her away, and maybe this is her trying to make things right? But no! No, I couldn't let myself go there. Every time I remembered the years of silence, the empty chair at the dinner table, it brought me back to the hard truth. She left. She chose a new life over me, and I wasn't about to just forgive and forget. Still, the texts kept coming. I know I've made mistakes, she'd say. I'm so sorry for the hurt I caused. Each one was a little more insistent. But then, the tone started shifting. It went from apologizing to trying to justify her actions. She began to talk about how hard her life had been, how she'd felt lost, and how she just needed a fresh start. That, somehow, made it all better in her eyes, right? Like, I should just let go of all the pain because she was struggling too. The nerve of her. That's when it really started to piss me off. I wasn't here to be her emotional punching bag. I wasn't here to validate her new life and give her permission to erase the years of damage she'd caused. She didn't get to just slide back into my life like everything was okay because she was feeling guilty. Then came the call. I had been avoiding her texts like a pro. Honestly, I'd even blocked her for a few days because I couldn't take the pressure. But one night, while I was lying in bed, my phone rang. The number on the screen wasn't saved, but the area code, something about it felt familiar. Something about it just hit me in that exact moment. It was her. I didn't want to pick up. I really didn't. But I didn't block the number. And now, here I was, sitting there in the dark, heart pounding in my chest. What if this call was her last chance to apologize? What if this time, she really was sorry? The idea of that gnawed at me. But no, I told myself. This is just another trick. She's doing it because she needs something. She's doing it because she's not finished with you. I hesitated, phone in hand, staring at the screen. I didn't answer. Instead, I just let it ring out. But it wasn't just a few rings. It went on. And on. And on. There was something different about it now. Something insistent, something urgent. It made me sick. She wasn't going to let me move on from this, was she? Then, just as I thought it might end, the voicemail notification popped up. A sinking feeling hit my gut. She left me a message. I didn't listen to it right away. I put my phone down, trying to shake off the feeling that was clawing at me. But I knew I couldn't ignore it forever. Something inside me just had to know. And so, I listened. Her voice, weak and trembling, came through the speaker. Please. I need you to hear me out, okay? I just want to talk. I'm not asking for forgiveness, not yet, but I can't live with myself knowing that I left you. Please. Just hear me. Something about the way she said it, her voice so small, cracked the wall I'd built around myself. It hit a nerve. For the first time, I didn't hear someone trying to explain their mistakes. I heard a person who was actually broken. It was like she was pleading with me, begging me to see her as human again, not the woman who left. It shook me to the core. Part of me wanted to hit the block button again. Part of me wanted to scream at her to leave me the hell alone, just like I had for so long. But another part of me? That small part, the part one didn't even want to acknowledge, started to think, what if she's not the villain in all this? I didn't reply right away. Instead, I spent hours just thinking, trying to make sense of the whole mess. Why now? Why after all this time? Why couldn't she just leave me alone, like I had begged her to do before? What did she want from me? Was this some kind of manipulation? Or was there more to it? The silence between us was heavy. It felt like there was something hanging in the air, just out of reach, something I couldn't quite grasp but knew was there. The weight of her message, of her voice, lingered long after the phone call had ended. And that's when I realized something that really hit hard. I didn't know what I wanted anymore. The decision felt so much bigger now. If I responded, could I handle it? Would I be setting myself up to be hurt again? Or, worse, would I regret pushing her away? Could I live with myself if I didn't give her a chance? My mind was racing, but no answers came. Just more questions. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me too. I spent the next couple of days in limbo. My phone was still buzzing with texts from her, but I just couldn't bring myself to open them. Every time I looked at that damn screen, my heart would race, like I was about to make some irreversible decision. I'd tell myself, just block her again, get it over with. But then I'd hesitate, my finger hovering over the button like there was something I was missing. I mean, wasn't I just being stubborn? Wasn't I the one who wanted closure? She was trying, right? She was reaching out. I kept going back and forth, like a ping-pong ball in my head. Then, one evening, as I sat in the living room, trying to ignore the notifications, my dad walked in. He looked at me for a second, like he knew exactly what was going on in my mind. And I hated that. I hated that he could see through me so easily. Your mom texted again, huh? It wasn't a question. It was just a statement. I didn't answer. I didn't want to get into it. Look, man, he sat down beside me on the couch, his voice softer than usual. I know this is tough for you. It's not easy having someone you love just walk out of your life. But you've got to think about what you want. You've got to make that choice. You're not a kid anymore, you know? I stared at the floor. I wasn't a kid anymore, no. I was 23, an adult, technically. But some days, I felt like I was still that 14-year-old boy who just wanted his mom back. It didn't matter how old I got, that feeling still lingered in the pit of my stomach. Do you think I should talk to her? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He shrugged. I can't tell you what to do. But maybe, just listen. Don't feel like you have to forgive her right away. But hearing her out could help you make peace with it. You've been holding onto this anger for a long time. It can weigh you down, son. I thought about it. I hated the idea of forgiving her. Hell, I didn't even want to consider it. But there was this small part of me that wondered if my dad was right. Maybe listening to her would help me move on. But what if it was just another way for her to manipulate me into feeling guilty? What if it was all just a ploy to ease her conscience? I'll think about it, I said, standing up to leave the room. I didn't want to talk about it anymore. But even as I walked away, I could feel the question gnawing at me. The next morning, I finally cracked. I couldn't take the suspense anymore. My mom's constant messages, each one a little more desperate than the last, had me on edge. It felt like she was choking me with her guilt trip, but there was this sick curiosity inside of me too. What did she want from me? Was she being honest? Or was she just looking for some kind of absolution for her own sins? So, I did it. I opened the messages. I skimmed through them quickly, my heart racing. She'd been saying the same thing over and over, I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. I know I can never make up for it, but please, just give me a chance to explain. I didn't reply immediately. My mind was a mess, swirling with confusion, anger, and even a hint of sadness. I could feel my old wounds opening up, like I was giving her permission to hurt me again. but I wasn't ready to just cut her off. Not yet. Maybe I was being weak, I didn't know. Then, in the middle of it all, she hit me with a bombshell. She mentioned my half-sister. Her name was Emily, and she was the child my mom had with the new guy. I'd heard about her through the grapevine, but I'd never met her. My mom dropped a line about how Emily was hoping I'd get in touch, and how she thought it would be nice for us to get to know each other. And that's when everything stopped. It was like a punch to the gut. I'd spent years hating my mom for leaving me, but now it was like she was trying to guilt me into accepting this new family. Like I was supposed to just roll over and be okay with the fact that she had a whole new life, without me. I couldn't take it. I had to walk away from the phone. I felt sick to my stomach, like I had no control over anything anymore. She was pulling strings I didn't even know existed, and I couldn't figure out if I was the puppet or the one being manipulated. I went outside to clear my head, pacing around the yard, my thoughts racing faster than I could keep up with. I couldn't get over the Emily thing. She wasn't some cute little surprise to me. She wasn't some innocent child that my mom just happened to have. She was a constant reminder that my mom had moved on, and that I was nothing more than a chapter in her past. That was the moment I realized something else. It wasn't just my mom trying to guilt-trip me into forgiving her, it was about Emily too. It was about a new family, a new life, that was still there. Still alive. Still thriving. What the hell was I supposed to do with that? That night, I couldn't shake off what my mom had said about Emily. I was spiraling. There was something so raw and uncomfortable about the way she dropped her name in there, like it was just another piece of the puzzle. Emily hopes she'll get in touch. That line kept echoing in my head. Who the hell was she to use her as some kind of emotional leverage? Like, all these years I'd spent wondering why my mom left, and now, all of a sudden, I'm supposed to forget about it because she has a kid with someone else? I kept pacing around, back and forth in my living room, my brain running through a million scenarios, none of which made me feel better. Maybe my dad was right, maybe I should just hear her out. But how do you listen to someone who's been gone for so long, who didn't care enough to try and fix things while you were growing up? She left me, for crying out loud. She chose them over me. And now she was throwing some kid in my face like that was supposed to make me forget everything? I had to confront her. I didn't know how it would go. I didn't know what I would say. But something inside of me snapped. I needed answers, not more apologies. I needed closure, not some vague promises of a happy family reunion. I couldn't keep pretending I was fine with this. I wasn't fine. And I sure as hell wasn't going to play along. I grabbed my phone and typed a message. I didn't care about being polite anymore. Stop using Emily as a reason for me to talk to you. She doesn't change anything. You left me, and I can't just ignore that. So no, I'm not interested in reconnecting. Not now, not ever. Please stop. I pressed send. The second I hit that button, I felt a strange sense of relief. It was like I'd lifted this huge weight off my shoulders, but at the same time, my stomach churned. It was the final nail in the coffin, wasn't it? I couldn't go back after that. No more pretending. No more hoping that one day things would magically get better. I'd made my choice. But then, she replied. Her message came in a few minutes later, and my heart sank when I saw it. It wasn't an apology this time. It wasn't begging or pleading. No. She was furious. You don't get to treat me like this. I've spent years thinking about you, wondering how you're doing, wanting to fix things. And you, she paused for a second, and then came the next part. The part that really twisted the knife. You're just like your father, aren't you? Stubborn and unwilling to see the truth. I'm not going to beg you. I've done enough of that. She was angry, furious, even. And honestly, it stung. It stung because she still didn't get it. After all these years, after everything that had happened, she still didn't understand what she'd done. She still didn't get why I couldn't just forgive her and let it all go. It was like she saw me as the problem. Like I was the one who needed to change. I wasn't the one who left. I wasn't the one who moved on. And yet here I was, expected to be the one to fix everything. I thought about what my dad had said, about hearing her out. But hearing her out hadn't changed anything. She wasn't sorry for what she did, she was sorry that she didn't get what she wanted. She wanted a relationship with me, but she wasn't willing to look at the damage she caused, the years of pain and confusion. She wasn't willing to understand how it felt to be abandoned by your own mother. And for the first time, I felt that old anger bubbling up again. That feeling of being overlooked, of being nothing more than an afterthought in her life. She hadn't tried to fix things when I needed her, but now that it was convenient for her, she thought I'd just welcome her back with open arms? Hell no. I typed back a response, but this time I didn't pull any punches. You don't get to turn this around on me. I'm not the one who left. I didn't do anything wrong here. You're the one who chose them over me. I'm not sorry for what I said, and I'm not going to apologize for protecting myself. So don't even bother trying to make me feel guilty. This is on you. I said it. And then, silence. For hours, there was nothing. I stared at the phone, waiting for another text, another call, something. But nothing came. The relief was short-lived, but the quiet, that was different. It was like the tension that had been building for so long just collapsed. It felt final. Like I had made my decision, and now there was no going back. My mom was gone. She had been gone for years, and it wasn't just the physical distance. It was the emotional one. She didn't understand me. She didn't get why I couldn't just forgive her and move on. Maybe she would never understand. But I couldn't keep trying to make her. And as much as it hurt, as much as it stung in ways I didn't want to admit, I knew I'd done the right thing. The choice wasn't just for her. It was for me. For my peace. I wasn't going to let her back in. Not like this. The days that followed were quiet. Too quiet. I'd made my decision, right? And yet, there was this lingering sense of discomfort that I couldn't shake off. I wasn't exactly sure what I was expecting after I sent that final message. Maybe an apology, maybe some kind of acknowledgement that, okay, she understood why I was angry. But nothing came. The silence, in a way, felt heavier than the arguments we used to have. It was like we'd hit the point of no return, and she wasn't coming back. I don't know why that bothered me so much. It's not like I wanted her to come crawling back, right? I mean, I told myself I didn't want that. But as the days went by, the reality of what I had just done, what I had just ended, started to set in. And it was harder to swallow than I thought it would be. I tried to keep myself busy. Work, friends, anything to distract me. But every now and then, I'd catch myself wondering, what if? What if I just gave her a chance? What if I was being too harsh? Then I'd remind myself, no, she made her choice. She's the one who walked away. She's the one who didn't try to fix this when she had the chance. But even after all that, even knowing that she had hurt me in ways that I couldn't forget, a part of me still wanted her to care. It was a twisted thing to admit to myself, but it was the truth. I didn't want to feel abandoned. I didn't want to feel like I was just a chapter in her life that she could close without a second thought. Still, I couldn't let myself go down that road. She wasn't going to get to rewrite our story. She didn't get to come back into my life like nothing ever happened. I deserved better than that. I wasn't some replacement for the family she'd chosen over me. I wasn't just supposed to fall in line when it was convenient for her. And so, I carried on. I lived my life the way I had been for years, focusing on what I had, not what I didn't. My dad, he's been my rock through all of this. I think he knew that what I was going through wasn't just about the betrayal anymore. It was about learning to accept what had happened, and finally understanding that I couldn't keep holding onto this anger forever. It wasn't about forgiveness. It was about letting go. Not for her, but for me. One evening, I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through some random stuff on my phone when I got a message. I didn't recognize the number. But when I opened it, there it was. I hope one day, you'll understand. I didn't want to leave you. But I had to, for myself. I'll always love you. I stared at it for a long time, the words sinking in. For a second, I felt that familiar sting again, the weight of the abandonment, the hurt, the confusion. But then, I just let it go. I didn't feel anything. No anger. No bitterness. Just nothing. The truth was, I didn't need her to explain herself anymore. I didn't need her to justify the past. She had her reasons. I had mine. But at the end of the day, I was my own person, and I wasn't going to let the decisions she made define who I was. I didn't respond to her message. It wasn't cold. It wasn't cruel. It was just... I didn't have anything left to say. And that was it. That was the closure I needed. I could finally breathe. I don't think I'll ever fully understand why she did what she did. I don't think I'll ever stop wondering about the what-ifs and the could-be beans. But what I do know now is that I'm not stuck in the past anymore. I'm not waiting for someone who wasn't there when I needed them. I'm moving on, in my own way. And it feels kind of freeing, actually. Maybe, in the end, that's what she wanted all along, for me to be okay. Not for me to forgive her, but for me to find peace in my own life. I'll never know for sure, and honestly, I don't need to. It's not about her anymore. It's about me. I guess that's what happens when you let go of the things you can't control. You make room for the things that actually matter. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control of my own story.